Okay. For the record, could you go ahead and state your name?
Okay, well, I'm Fanny Price. Security here for Phoenix Corp. Well, security and, well, we do a bit of private investigation. We also do a bit of movie production as well. But I've mostly been focusing on security because that's what I've dabbled in with before.
Great, and thank you very much. And just to make sure that you understand that this is being recorded and you're not being coerced in any way, shape, or form as it relates to
Yes.
This testimony. Okay. And then lastly, that you understand that if there are any questions that I ask that you feel like you want to seek out the advice of an attorney on, et cetera, you're not a person of interest or anything like that, Fanny, but just covering my bases, you understand that you have the right to seek out and talk to an attorney, and as well as a right not to ask a question or answer a question.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the incident that I want to talk to you about is the one that happened up there at the Irvine used car lot off of 68 in Harmony. And
yes.
I was wondering, first of all, what your could you tell me a little bit? Were you out in that at the lot that day in an official capacity, or were you there just looking at cars or happening to stop by or something like that? How did you arrive at the scene?
Oh. Well, I was doing security there for Mr. Bobby Irvine. So that's how I ended up there in the first place.
Perfect.
Was doing my shift.
Okay. And so Phoenix Corporation now has a contract there with Mr. Irvine for protection?
I can't say we still do, but we did at the time, yes.
Okay, fair enough. And had you worked with Mr. Irvine before in the past?
Sorry, could you go by that one more time?
Sure. Did you work with Mr. Irvine in the past, particularly as it relates to security?
Oh, briefly with SecureServe, yes.
Okay. And why don't you take me through a little bit what was going on that day prior to the arrival of Mr. Capriati to the lot?
Well, I mean, it just felt like, same old day. Was doing my rounds, and Mr. Bobby Irvine was attending to some customers, and I was having a little chit-chat with one of them on the other side when things kind of hit the fan.
I see. So can you tell me when things started to hit the fan, as you said, what part of the lot, let's say you're facing the lot from 68 and you're looking, that would be northbound towards the airport, right? Towards the lot.
So
what side of the lot were you on?
I was next to the clothing store when this took place.
Okay, you were next to the clothing store? So that would be off to the west, right? Towards the bank, the clothing store that's there? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, were you on the lot, or were you actually all the way over at the clothing store itself?
I was on the lot, but I was closest to the clothing store.
All right. And what were you informed of anything as it related to Mr. Capriati?
Yes, I was prior. Apparently, he had some beef with Bobby Irvine.
I see. So the two of them had some sort of history.
They have, yes.
Did Mr. Irvine give you specific instructions on what was to happen should Mr. Capriati come on to the lot that day?
Yes, that he was to be escorted if he was seen on the premises.
Okay, and by escorted, you mean that he was going to be escorted off the premises, or that you were to stay with him while he was on the premises?
He would have to leave the premises.
Okay.
That I would have to, yes.
Okay. And were there any other Phoenix Corporation agents present that day?
I believe it was just myself.
Okay, great. Now, when did you first become aware that Mr. Capriati was, in fact, on the parking lot, or at the on the grounds of Irvine's used car lot?
I didn't know until it was Mr. Dagwood who came up to me and told me when things were already going down. That was the only time I knew he was already there.
Okay, Mr. Dagwood.
Yes.
Okay, and so he came over and he said, "Hey, what did Mr. Dagwood say to you? Do you recall?"
Well, that he saw Bobby in front of Sonny's car, and well, Bobby apparently pulled out his gun on Sonny.
I see. Now, did Mr. Dagwood, did he just tell you that Bobby had pulled out his gun, and at that point he didn't say anything like Mr. Capriati was threatening him, or that?
No, he didn't. He didn't
Okay.
say.
It was when Mr. Irvine, when you first observed Mr. Irvine with his gun out. Where did he have the gun aimed at Mr. Capriati, or was it at his side?
From what I understand, yes. And then no, he had it aimed at Sonny.
Okay. And what type of firearm was it? Do you know?
No. I'd say maybe a deagle.
Okay, it was
Just a wild guess.
a pistol of some sort, though.
.50.
Oh wow, so he was rocking the Desert Eagle. That's a nice handgun. That thing will stop a
Yep.
moose. Had you heard any shots fired at that time?
At that time, it was Sonny who shot at Mr. Bobby Irvine. Yes, but from my understanding, it was because of self-defense.
So where was?
And Yes, go on.
I was going to ask real quick before we get into Mr. Capriati. Could you tell me, like, they were on what would be the east side or the prison side of the
Prison
used
side
car
was where
lot?
it took place.
Okay. And could you describe what Mr. Capriati's car and where it was parked?
I don't think Sonny even had his car on the lot.
So you said that so let me rephrase that
Oh wait,
question.
no. Yeah, no. Sorry. No, you're right. No, Sonny did have his car there.
Okay. And was Mr. Irvine in front of his car, or was that a different car?
Yes, in front.
Okay.
Bobby was in front.
Okay. And do you recall if there was any cars behind Mr. Capriati's?
No.
So there were no cars behind him, and it was his car against that metal fence that's on the east side?
Yes.
Okay. And were there any cars to the immediate west of Mr. Capriati's car? Or did you have a pretty clear view at that point?
No, other than Bobby Irvine's cars that were all parked. No, there weren't any other cars.
Okay, great. Okay, so did you witness anything that Mr. Capriati may have done that that injured Mr. Irvine? prior to the shots being fired?
Well, no, he didn't. It was just the shots. Because Sonny was threatened by Bobby.
Okay. And then the shots went out. Now, was Mr. Capriati in his vehicle when that happened, or was he outside of his vehicle?
No, he was on foot. He was on foot.
He was on foot. All right. And
Yes.
was Mr. Capriati trying to run at that point in time, or did he got out of his vehicle? Bobby had his.
He tried to run.
I see. So he tried to run, and then he turned and what? Describe what happened. So he gets out of the car, and what did you see?
Well, I didn't really see much, to be honest, Dan Dorfman. I only saw pretty much the aftermath of what happened to Bobby. Bobby was on the ground, and that's when I had Dagwood come up to me and tell me that there was some shit going down, that Bobby raised his gun at Sonny, and then Sonny, in self-defense, shot him, and then he tried to make a run for it, and because I misunderstood what was going on, I shot at Sonny.
I gotcha. So then it's fair to say, Fanny, that that you actually did not see Bobby in front of the Mr. Capriati's vehicle with his pistol out. That was what was told
I
to you
took the
by
word of Mr. Dagwood.
Mr. Dagwood. Okay. Fair.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that. Clarifying that.
But as as he was my employer and I was security, so I mean I was just doing my bit.
Sure, I see. And but you did hear shots fired, and then Mr. Capriati was fleeing. And is that when you drew your pistol?
Yes. That's what I did, yes, because he was trying to fight off some of the other clients and other civilians that were there on scene, who were trying to stop him.
How were they trying to stop him?
They were trying to punch him.
Okay. And was he punching them back, or did he held up his firearm in a threatening manner?
I mean, he tried to hold up his gun, but that's when I shot.
Okay, I see. So he tries to flee the scene. He holds up his pistol at some people who are trying to punch him, and that's when you shot.
Yes.
Okay, great. Did you observe Mr. Archie Cooper? Do you know? In fact, first of all, do you know Mr. Archie Cooper?
I don't understand what Archie Cooper has to do with this case here.
He was a witness. I just was trying to understand if you knew where his position was in relation to all of this.
Oh, no, I think he was just there.
Okay, so he wasn't one of the individuals trying to stop Mr. Capriati from leaving.
No, he definitely was not.
Okay. Who else did you observe? Who did you observe trying to stop Mr. Capriati from leaving?
There was this couple, trying to remember their names.
Was it Rosenberg?
That's the one. Yep, that was them.
Okay. And so they were. They did not have any firearms drawn, correct?
No, they didn't. They resorted with their fists.
Okay. And at the time that they're trying to stop Mr. Capriati from leaving, Bobby Irvine was already on the ground, shot at that point.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right. All right. Do you know if Mr. Do you know if Mr. Irvine had he and or do you know the nature of his and Mr. Capriati's sour relationship?
No, unfortunately, I don't. I think that's something you'll probably have to question them both.
Okay. Yeah, I intend to, so I appreciate.
I didn't make it any of my business to pry into what was going on between them.
Fair enough.
I was just doing my job.
Yep. Gotcha. All right. Were there any other persons that you observed around the lot that day? Any other suspicious behavior, perhaps, prior to the incident?
No, I can't say. There's always some weird stuff going down there, to be honest, Dan Dorfman. Always.
Sandy Shores,
So,
right?
honestly, you can't link everything together. It's honestly a bunch of different people just causing Bobby Irvine and his lord some trouble. Whether it's bikers or or the like.
I hear you. He's having trouble with the bikers up there too.
That he is.
Good
4 different
Lord.
groups too. Yep,
4? Good Lord.
that's right.
Well, I can see why he's hiring somebody with your experience and skill. You might recall I've seen
well,
your
we no
experience
longer-
in action at the little incident down there
Well,
off
thank
of
you.
Forum and Strawberry. You remember that?
Oh, I do. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we don't work for Mr. Irvine anymore. We just recently ended that contract.
I see. Well, no doubt that'll be his loss, losing your experience.
Well, I mean, if you're going to disrespect people, well, why should we work for you?
Fair enough. What did he? Was this after? I take it after the incident there on the lot that day.
That's right. Yep, it was after.
All right. Well, great. Is there anything else that you can think of that might be of import for me to look into as it relates to this particular case?
No, not really, other than, I mean, I don't know if you're aware of Mr. Wyatt, too. He's definitely investigating into this case as well. If you haven't had the chance to have a little sit down and chat with him, I suggest you do.
I appreciate that. He's the defense attorney for Mr. Capriati, so I'm sure
Yep,
that Mr. Wyatt and I will talk, and he'll get a copy of all of this information as part of the discovery process. So all the attorneys have all the notes and all the evidence that have been discovered on each side. So, but I appreciate you.
He's asked me as well.
Good. Well, excellent. Hopefully, I'm sorry to inconvenience you over this and have you run through it another time, but I appreciate it.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, no problem, Dan. If it helps you, it's all good by me.
And it helps. It helps you, Mr. Irvine, make sure that he gets the justice that he needs, and also make sure that Mr. Capriati, if he's a innocent man, that he gets exonerated in court. So we don't get that if we don't find out the evidence. And let the attorneys let the attorneys argue it out, right?
Exactly.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Price. Appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure.
There we go.